I wrote it down in huge letters on my calendar.
Right.
30 minutes.
This meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority will come to order. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Chair Bradish,
Here.
Vice Chair Cole,
Here.
Authority Member Buchanan,
Here.
Authority Member Levere,
Here.
Authority Member Mather, Authority Member Schock, Authority Member Webb. We do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. We can proceed. First item of business is approval of the agenda.
Chairman, I would like to add to the agenda a discussion on occupation taxes, the annual occupation taxes.
We need a motion to get that agenda modified or not.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I
so,
want
yeah.
to add an agenda item. Do we need a motion for that or just a request?
Well, where did you want to add the item?
To the end of the agenda, I'd like to add a discussion on occupation taxes for our alcohol application establishments.
Can we do that at the end under reports and discussion?
Yeah, we'll make that in authority reports.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, we should have a motion, the new six, no?
No,
Oh, just do it
that's
under
already
reports.
on the
Okay,
agenda.
I see, okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition?
No, without the addition.
Yeah, we'll handle it. I'll move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, motion is carried. Next item of business, certification of the meeting journal. I have not seen the journal, but I assume everyone else has, and we need a motion to certify that.
I will move, I move that we certify the clerk's, or approve the clerk's certification of the journal of the
February 9th?
February 10th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need a second.
I will second.
Thank you.
Now all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Next item of business, I'm going to ask for the deputy city clerk to
Chairman, you'll actually need a motion to do that. You'll need someone to make a motion to appoint me as temporary chair.
Didn't I say I wanted to ask for a motion to do that?
No, you were just going to do
I
it.
intended to.
Mr.
This
Chairman,
time I would ask for a motion to appoint the deputy city clerk as temporary chair to conduct some special business that has to be conducted this evening. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we do that, I had a couple of remarks that I wanted to make. This is my last meeting as a member of this authority, and as most people know, I've been here for a very long time. I want to thank a bunch of people. First of all, the people that have served with me on the authority for all these years. Been some really terrific people, and we've been through some fun times and some difficult times together, but we got through it. I particularly want to thank the people that are on the authority right now, including the ones who are not here this evening. Possibly more importantly, I want to thank the city staff, Kristen and Colleen in particular, who have done most of the work and made our jobs a lot easier. Together, I think we've all done a good job for the city of Littleton, which is what we all wanted to do. And with those remarks, I will relinquish my chair. I will not stay for the whole hearing. I just want to hear Colleen's part, and then I'll leave. And I'm very happy about the way this whole thing went.
Thank you, Mr. Bradish. Before I move on to anything else, did anyone have anything they wanted to say to Bill before he runs away? I figured you would.
Yeah, Bill, it's thank you as well. It's been an honor and a privilege and a joy. So thank you for your time spent and your leadership. And we hope to see you around.
You will. Thank you very
I
much,
second.
Andrew.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Mr. Bradish. I will call to order at 6:36 PM this transitional meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority. At this time, I do want to introduce our two new members. Authority member Michael Day as alternate 1. You can come up to the podium. And Authority member Jerome Winsek. Did I get that right? As our alternate 2. I would also like to make note that former alternates Kenny Schock and Michael Buchanan are now full voting members, so congratulations to that. At this time, I would entertain a motion to elect a new chairman.
It's just a motion to conduct the election?
If you want to nominate someone,
Oh, I see. Nominations or, okay.
nominations.
Deputy Clerk, I would like to nominate Vice Chair Cole to the position of Chairman.
And I second that.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, at this time, I will take a vote. Authority Member Buchanan?
Yes.
Authority Member Winsek?
Yes.
Authority Member Lavier?
Yes.
Authority Member Day?
Yes.
Congratulations, Chair. At this time, I will entertain nominations for Vice Chair.
I'll move that we nominate Authority Member Lavier.
And I second that.
Any other nominations? Authority Member Buchanan?
Yes.
Authority Member Winsek?
Yes.
Authority Member Cole?
Yes.
Authority Member Day?
Yes.
Congratulations, Vice Chair. Okay,
Thank
at
you.
this time, I am going to call a second roll before I turn this meeting back. Hi, Kenny. Before I turn the meeting back over, I'm going to call a second roll. Authority Member Buchanan.
Here.
Chairman Cole.
Here.
Authority Member Day.
Here.
Vice Chair Lavier.
Here.
Authority Member Schock.
Here.
Authority Member Webb. Authority Member Winsek.
Here.
Colleen, for clarification, who will be the voting members this evening?
Actually, this evening, they're all going to vote because
Well, now that Authority Member Schock has arrived.
Authority Member Day is our alternate 1.
Okay.
Authority Member Winsek is alternate 2, so Authority Member Day will be voting this evening.
Okay, thank you.
All yours, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 4A. We are looking at scheduling a renewal hearing, potential for scheduling a renewal hearing for D&D Enterprises, Inc., doing business as D's Tavern, 819 West Littleton Boulevard, Littleton, Colorado. I believe we have a number of exhibits, is that right?
Yes, we have exhibits A through C, the renewal application, notice to the licensee, and a copy of the lien.
I'll move that we enter into the exhibits, or for the meeting, exhibits A through C.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to enter exhibits A through C? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Does the city staff have any comment before we proceed?
I'll just provide a little background. This is the agenda item is to schedule a renewal hearing. And so we don't take any evidence at this time. It's simply for you to set a date for the licensee to come back. And at that time, we will look fully at the application and take testimony from the licensee, as well as we'll have a public hearing at that time. When we received the renewal application, we were notified by finance that a lien had been filed for unpaid taxes, which is included in your exhibit. And so staff would ask that you schedule a renewal hearing at the May 11th licensing authority meeting.
And there's no material changes to the underlying fact there?
No, I've checked with finance as of today. The licensee has not made any reparations, and they haven't entered into any repayment plan at this point.
And just for those at home who don't know, Exhibit C is a notice of lien, which was filed February 29th. That showed at that time over $12,000 in outstanding sales and use tax to the city. Do we,
I would like to make a motion that we do have a hearing. Is that May 11th? Is that correct?
That is correct.
all right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seems reasonable to me. It's a large tax bill. I would like to hear what,
Not just a large tax bill, but countless months.
Correct.
That I saw in there also.
agreed. Yeah, yes, again, for those keeping track at home who might not be looking at the exhibit, that shows continuously March 2015 through January 2016.
Correct.
In which there are deficient taxes. So I agree, that seems like something that we'd like to talk to the licensee about. Any other comments? Discussion? Okay. Will the clerk please poll the authority?
Authority Member Buchanan,
Yes.
Chairman Cole,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lavier,
Yes.
Authority Member Day,
Yes.
Authority Member Schock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 5A, potential resolution or consideration of liquor license application for Mini Mart Inc. doing business as Loaf and Jug, 8080 South Broadway, Littleton, Colorado. Is the licensee present here tonight?
Yes.
Come on forward, please.
Good evening, members of the authority. For the record, I'm Robert Dill, an attorney appearing on behalf of Mini Mart DBA Loaf and Jug, and good evening, city staff as well. To my immediate right is Mr. Brian Carlson, a representative and district manager for Loaf and Jug.
I'm sorry, could you, I got your name.
Okay, Brian Carlson.
Brian Carlson, thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Carlson, District Manager of Loaf and Jug.
Good evening, Mr. Carlson. We do not swear attorneys, but we swear everyone else. So if you don't mind, would you raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. So normally, we let the applicant go ahead and give a bit of an overview, if you'd like to start with that, and then we can ask any questions as we go.
Sure, this is a very straightforward application, at least from my point of view. It's an application for a 3.2 beer license at a convenience store known as Loaf and Jug. The store is not open at this point. It's going to open on or about the 1st of June. Mr. Carlson has been with Loaf and Jug for approximately 15 years. He is the district manager at that point, and we also have a lady whose name is Bunny Scher, who is in the audience, that will be the manager of this particular store. This convenience store operates much like others in the sense that it provides gasoline and food service items and cigarettes, pop.
Sir, can I have you speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It provides food, service, and items such as pop, milk, other miscellaneous consumer items found in the store. And as I said, it also provides gasoline services. I think it will have diesel. I'm not too sure about that. This sort of a license has come to be a license that customers expect that convenience stores have. As you know, 7-Eleven has stores of this nature. Almost all of the other gasoline stores or outlets have this sort of license. Loaf and Jug has approximately 80 stores throughout Colorado and Wyoming that have beer licenses. So it's something that they're seeking for your consideration. The issuance of a new license at this location. They have a training program that Brian can tell you about in terms of making sure that the employees check for age identification, and if they don't, they can be suspended and/or fired for violation of those rules. And basically, that's our request.
Okay. If you don't mind just a moment, I'd like to enter the exhibits. We have exhibits A through G, starting with the application, going through the public hearing roster. Do we have a motion to enter those so that we can discuss them?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor of entering exhibits A through G?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Would you like to answer any of those questions specific to the application or the store, or would you like to have your petition represented first, and then we can ask questions? Do you have a preference?
Sure, I'd like to have Mr. Max Scott, who did the survey, testify first, and then I'd like to have Brian Carlson give you a brief explanation about his experience and knowledge about how the store is operated.
Okay. If you don't mind, since we only have the one microphone and it's the public record, can we just get Mr. Scott so that he's close enough to the microphone that we'll be able to hear him, please? Mr. Scott, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes, thank you and good evening.
All right, good evening. Do you have a petition to walk us through?
You want me to just go on autopilot, Bobby?
I think so, Max. You've done it so often.
For anybody new on the authority, we just passed into our 48th business year. We've done over 6,000 surveys in the state. Who cares, Max? We currently have contracts with Wheat Ridge and Westminster, and we had a contract for 3 license applications back in the 70s with the city of Littleton on 3 massage parlors. I testified from this very podium. Anyway, we were retained to do a survey, and we were paid in advance. Thank you very much. And we've done, I don't know how many loaf and jugs, but a lot throughout the state of Colorado. I filed a report. Does everybody have that? The front of the page 1 gives you some details as to days and that type of thing. If you go to page 5 is the neighborhood as defined by staff. As I recall, this is the same neighborhood we did the liquor license drugstore for Safeway. I don't know if were you here then? I don't remember. Anyway, this is generally across the street from the center where the Safeway is. And the survey allows a person to sign for or against. There's 2 petition formats, businesses and residences, and we encourage people to write in the reason. We had a briefing sheet as to what a 3-2 off-premise license is and what Loaf and Jug plans to do with convenience stores, or anytime we do a Kroger outlet with a gas island. People want to know 2 things. When's it going to open, and is it going to sell diesel? And that's a tentative yes, we were told. Anyway, on page 5, the blue areas are the businesses we surveyed. The pink are the residences. We also carried the city's map, which is the map after that. We like to use ours because it has a little bit better detail in terms of street names. With that, on page 2, item 1, I'm telling the client we did what we contracted to do. We don't guarantee survey results. Item number 2 is who was for or against it for whatever reason. We had 27 businesses favoring, 0 against, 146 residences favoring, 4 against, and I don't think we had any verbals. When people write in the reason, we categorize that based on our experience and involvement with Colorado case law known as Rule 106. We had 2 no need. People said something to the effect of, there's enough. We had 1 abhorrence of alcohol and 1 miscellaneous reason. In this survey category, if you round up, we have 91% favoring the issuance of the license. In my business, licenses fall into 2 categories, on-premise and off-premise. Typically, parties in interest have more concern about the off-premise license. There's a fear that somebody can buy it, tender it to somebody, buy more than they can prudently drink and throw the containers out the window, and so it goes. So this is an excellent result for an off-premise license application, If you buy our argument on needs and desires, which is eliminating all the reasons except for no need, the survey category goes up to, or the survey figure goes up to 97. The margin of error is 2.2, so you can add it in, subtract it out, either one of them, and both show a need and desire for a new 3.2 off-premise license. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Are there any questions from the authority?
Mr. Scott, from your experience, do you naturally get people to favor something just because you're asking them to sign, or is there an impartiality structured in your questions when you knock on the door?
Well, we don't guarantee survey results in our agreement letter. So what we do is we present the application and we ask them, do you favor or oppose? And then they can execute as they wish on the petition format, and we encourage them to write in a reason if they would like to. So the answer to your question, which I over-answered, is it's an impartial survey and we don't guarantee the results.
Mr. Scott, to the best of your recollection, in this neighborhood, have you done other petitions for similar establishments in this neighborhood?
We've done some on-premise licenses, as I recall, and we did the Safeway years ago. You were on the authority then, I think.
No,
Were you not?
I was just coming on at that point.
Yeah, it was an application for a liquor license drugstore, which is still an off-premise license. And I don't remember those results. It seems to me that they were just a little bit lower than this.
Okay, that was the point of my question. Do you recall the for and against percentages in that particular set of circumstances?
No, I don't, but it was substantially protested. There was a bus out there full of retail liquor store customers that they hauled in here. And we did talk to some people that had signed a petition against, either in the liquor store door to door, but the results, I think, were over 70%.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Going back to that 70%, it kind of was a question in my mind. Where do you see not support kind of coming in from your personal and professional experience? Because a lot of these come in very highly, 95 to 100% in favor.
Well,
If we see 70%, should we take that as a giant sign?
Let me go back just a little bit. Survey results for off-premise are usually more conservative and sometimes come out negative. That hasn't happened in a while. Usually what happens is that the applicant has done a lot of site work in terms of traffic counts and population and all of that. So it's their opinion, they bought the site, that there is a need there, and then we come in after that and do the surveys. Some of you who are about my age, or maybe 10 years younger or so, will remember the early 80s when they started installing, as a matter of a standard piece of equipment, the burglar alarm systems in cars. They didn't used to have that. It's like they upgraded with the air conditioning and the automatic windows, and they went to burglar alarm systems. So if somebody wanted to jack a car, they wanted a full tank of gas and they needed the key to get that from the driver. So there were a lot of armed robberies or people stealing cars in C-stores. So we had about 5 or 6 C-stores come out negative, and then that sort of faded away because they've had better ways to control crime at these sites.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so for now. We'll see about the future down the road, much further.
They still jack the cars, but not as many.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Scott? Great, thank you.
Thank you, good evening. May I be excused?
Sure, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, I want to tell you, and I told Bill, this community has one of the best reputations in the retail alcohol industry. You guys are very fair, and it's a great place to come and locate a license. And when somebody says, we're going to do 5 outlets and we're looking at these 10 locations, the first thing out of my mouth is, don't go to Boulder.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Mr. Dill, did you want to continue on with any other representation from the application?
Yes, I'd like to ask Brian Carlson some questions. Brian, how long have you worked for Loaf and Jug?
15 years.
And what's your position with the company?
District manager.
And what are your responsibilities as it relates to this store?
I am over 10 stores. This will be 11. And I have 11 managers underneath me. So I'm in charge of making sure all the operations of the store is done the way it's supposed to be done.
And is there a manager that's been appointed named Bunny Shear who's present in the audience?
Yes,
And when do you think the store is going to open?
around June 1st, thereabouts.
And in connection with the beer license application, what sort of training is given to all of the employees who would be in a position to sell beer?
When we hire an employee, we have a training center, and actually the training center is just right down the block from it. It's at 8000 South Lincoln, just within a block from that store. But every new employee we hire goes through the new employee training, which is done at that training center. So for the first 4 days of their employment, they're at that training center. And the second day is the day that they go over how to ID people and all the liquor laws and tobacco laws as well.
So does the store have a scanner, if you will, that will stop the transaction once beer is scanned to make sure an ID is checked?
Yes, we have on our registers, once you try to ring in beer, it pops up a screen to properly ID the person. It won't go on any further till you either scan the driver's license through the scanner or you input the birth date into the register.
Now, can employees override the system, so to speak, and not get the information that should be required?
Yes, it is possible they could do that.
And what sort of a penalty would be imposed on the employee if they did that? And he sold to a minor?
If they sold to a minor or did not check ID, they are given a 7-day suspension without pay immediately. And if it happens a second time, it's immediate termination.
And does the company employ what I would call a secret shopper or bars program to make sure that employees are compliant with these rules?
Yes.
And how does that work?
Every 4 weeks, or within every 4 weeks, a bars member will come into our store and shop it. They'll either ask for tobacco product or alcohol. It pretty much alternates. 1 month it may be tobacco, next month alcohol. But they check to see if they check for ID. And if they don't ask for the ID and properly scan it or input their birth date, then they give them a red card. And if they get the red card, that's when we suspend them for it. Also, if they do everything properly, they give them a green card. And when they do that, we give them a monetary bonus for doing their job right, is to try and keep them doing it all the time, and they look forward to that.
So I mentioned initially in the opening remarks that Loaf and Jug has approximately 80 stores. Is that correct?
In the Colorado area, yes.
Okay. And with regard to the site location itself, 8080 South Broadway is roughly where?
It's about a half a mile north of E4 or W470.
And how many employees do you expect would be working at this site?
We're looking at probably about 9 employees.
And do you know at this point if you'll have gas pumps?
Yes.
And would you have diesel if some customers looking for that?
You know, I really don't know for sure if we're putting diesel in, but most likely we are because it's we're putting all new tanks in and all new pumps, and normally anytime we put a new store in, we put diesel in. So it should be there.
And why do you think this location needs a beer license? What's the company's reasoning in that regard?
It's for the convenience of our customers. They come to expect us to carry the beer if they want to pick up a 6-pack to take it home on their way home from work or whatever. And it's just part of the sales mix that we provide for them, and they expect it. So
can you tell us what % beer sales are of the total gross sales of the other food items and things like that?
It's pretty low. It's only about 3%.
Okay. And as a representative of Loaf and Jug, do you personally desire that the license be approved?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the authority that I haven't asked you?
I talked about our scanners, and there is a override button that they can press, and that's usually for people that are of my age or thereabouts, that they can do that with, that are a regular customer that they know and come in. That's what that button's for. But our managers also, when they're doing their paperwork, they're looking to see what the percentage of that button is hit by every employee. And then they'll view the sale on their monitor system to see how that came about. And they'll talk with the employee, especially if they're having too many of those.
And when you say viewed
They'll
on the
correct it.
monitor system, do you mean a video?
Yeah, it's video, it's a DVR.
Okay.
Nobody uses videotapes anymore, it's all
Right.
DVR, but it's stored on there for 60 days.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further questions of Brian, if members of the authority.
Any questions?
I do. On the application, question 8, has a license ever been denied or suspended? The answer was yes. Can you expound on that?
Yes, sir. I believe we had 3 stores that had licenses suspended for not doing something, or not, I don't think they passed a sting is what it was. Those were in Colorado Springs and Pueblo area,
It was not in your region?
not in my region, no.
Have you ever had a license suspended under your district manager responsibilities?
I have, but it's been several years ago. I had one in Golden that was. I believe we had a 7-day suspension with 3 days in abeyance on that. And we really took some action on it and made sure that wasn't going to happen again in our area. I don't know how many years ago that was. It's probably been 5 or 7 years ago, somewhere in that area.
Mr. Dale, and more specifically, Mr. Carlson, on page 14 of the application, you listed a number of violations, age-sensitive violations, in the years 2013, 2014, and 2015.
Yes.
The list stops on April 21st, 2015. To the best of your knowledge, have there been any violations since that date in any of the Loaf and Jug stores?
Yes, there have been, and in fact, I spoke to Brian about that. There have been 3 violations, to my knowledge.
And would you share those with the authority, please?
Yes. Let me see if I can find it. Bear with me here. Yes, there was a violation July of 15 in Pueblo, sale to a minor. 5-day suspension held in abeyance and a fine was paid. A violation in December of 15 in Colorado Springs, the same penalty, oddly enough, $200 fine, 5 days held in abeyance. And the last is also Colorado Springs, March of 16, and that was, once again, $200 fine, 5-day suspension in abeyance.
Okay. And Mr. Carlson, are any of those stores under your supervision?
No, sir, they're not.
Thank you.
Just to
My
clarify-
area starts from Castle Rock south and goes north to, actually, Colorado Boulevard and about Florida. It's the farthest north I have. And then I have the Parker Centennial area, and I go up west up to Bailey. And that's my area, basically.
And just to clarify, Mr. Dill, what you just read is in addition to what we have in our, in the application itself.
Yes, and I
Okay.
can tender that to you if you like.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you would hand it to the clerk. We have, we certainly have it as part of the record, but I just wanted to clarify that it's in addition to. Any other questions from the authority? I've got a couple of questions. Just out of curiosity, what percent, so are all of the versions of Colorado ID cards currently scannable based on your system?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
The scanner you talked about when someone scans sale of beer, you said something pops up, and you were describing that they can actually scan the ID card itself, and that
They can scan the ID on the back of your driver's license. Actually, I can show you mine. There is a strip on the back of it right here. And if you pull that through, it has the age and everything on there.
Okay.
But before they do that, they have to look at that license, and we watch them on camera to make sure, and they're to look at it, they're to flip it to make sure that it's not been altered, and then make sure that person standing in front of them matches the picture.
And I was just curious, I mean, I know that there are a couple different versions of Colorado driver licenses right now. Are all of them able to be scanned?
I believe all of them. I don't know about the brand new one that just started, a week ago?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've changed the driver's license coming out.
And then if you had an out-of-state ID that didn't have that feature, that's when they can enter it themselves?
And then there's several out-of-staters that don't have that, and they just input the birth date in from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from the authority? Anything from staff?
No, sir.
I would entertain a motion if anyone wants to make a motion. Sorry, the public hearing. So we've got Mr. Dill, Mr. Carlson, and Mr. Scott who had signed up. Is there anyone else here who would like to testify this evening? No? Okay.
I would like to make a motion. I move that the public hearing be closed and that a resolution of the Littleton Licensing Authority be approved, which grants Mini Mart Incorporated, DBA, Loaf and Jug, 8080 South Broadway, Littleton, Colorado, a 3.2% off-premise liquor license contingent upon approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division and based upon the following findings of fact. 1, that notice of the hearing was properly posted and published. 2, that the applicant has possession of the premises and the premises are suitable for the requested license. 3, that the needs of the neighborhood are not now being met. 4, it is the desire of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood that the license be issued. 5, that existing similar liquor licenses in designated neighborhoods are not adequate. And 6, that the applicant is of good moral character, record, and reputation.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I think it looks to me like everything's in order, and though there were a larger number of past violations than what we normally see, obviously that's across a very, very large number of applications, so I think it's reasonable. Any other discussion? All right, the clerk, please pull the authority.
And before I do that, I just want to make note that Authority Member Webb did arrive in time, so our 5 regular members will be voting. And with that, Authority Member Buchanan,
Yes.
Authority Member Cole,
Yes.
Authority Member Webb,
Yes.
Authority Member Levere,
Yes.
Authority Member Schock.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Littleton.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dill.
Good evening.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 16A. Any reports from staff?
None from me, no.
No?
I will just update you that we did have a study session last night with council, and they are looking at allowing retail marijuana in the city of Littleton. I was directed to bring back an ordinance for their consideration, probably limiting the licensees with medical and retail to just the 4 establishments, and we'll be looking at some variations on that, so. And to update you, I'll keep you posted.
And under the proposed ordinance, who would have regulatory authority?
Those applications would come to you.
I was watching, I was one of the 5.
One of the 5 people watching? Did you say, so,
My husband was one of them.
so we found 20%. So you said it was discussed at study session. Is there a draft of a resolution yet?
So I had brought to the study session, if you remember back in June 2014, when they were looking at the issue, we had put forward an ordinance to prohibit and then an ordinance to allow the 4 to convert. And so last night, I just brought back the same one about allowing those 4 to convert, and that was probably going to be the base model. There's a few areas that that council needs to make some decisions on, but.
Just the 4 medical marijuana licensees could convert. That would, it would be
Yes.
limited to that?
Yes.
Is that because they're the only places that are zoned for it, or?
Well, two of the establishments are appropriately located outside any buffer areas, and 2 do fall within a buffer. I believe it's a park buffer. And so one of the items council will be looking at is whether to change those buffers, whether to grandfather the 2 that are in non-conforming locations, or whether to require those 2 to move to a conforming legal location in order to obtain a retail license.
Is that because there's different buffer requirements for retail as there is for medical?
There could be.
I see.
I don't know yet whether council is looking.
Are they
at that.
currently within a buffer? And I guess, how did they end up in?
Did the buffers change recently?
That's what I mean is,
No, the buffers didn't change. I wasn't here when the original licenses were issued, and so
Okay.
I'm not sure how that happened.
sure,
but-
okay.
If I could?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Initially, before any ordinances were passed back in 2010 to allow even medical, there were already several MMCs operating within the city. And when it was determined that we would allow 4, and the 4 were chosen, they were allowed to operate in their locations, because at that time we didn't have buffers. The buffers came in after the fact. The 2 that are now conforming are because they came in after the fact, and they were allowed to, one was allowed to transfer an existing license, but they had to move to a conforming location. Many of you remember that hearing. And another one had been operating outside of a conforming location, and they came to us in March of 2012 or 2013, and were able to move into a conforming location. So, I'm sure the hope would be that everybody would be in a conforming location, but we still have 2 that were grandfathered in back in 2010 before the buffers were set, so.
Okay.
Are these, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with all the Littleton locations, but is this just retail sale, not grow, or are they?
No, this,
Yeah, correct. So there are 4 types of retail marijuana licenses you can, that we could license, and this ordinance is just for retail stores.
Okay.
Last night, there was some discussion about some other licenses, I think primarily testing facilities, but the ordinance I'll be bringing back will just deal with stores, and you never know what's going to happen once you get to hearing, but
But if they have medical already, I assume they can grow.
they can grow 20% of their.
Right, they can grow 20% on site, but currently the city doesn't allow any kind of auxiliary, any extra grows or distribution or anything like that. They're only allowed their 20 to grow 20% of their on-site, and it's 200 square feet or something. It's really a small amount.
And point well taken about what could happen once it's at a hearing, but the current draft, is it to require they convert, or would it allow the current medical to convert to retail, and then would there be for medical and for retail potentially?
That was one of the areas where I think council will have to decide. Options are that they could hold a dual operation license and they could hold both, or they could maintain just as a medical marijuana center, which when we looked at this 2 years ago, there was at least one of the dispensaries that had no interest in going to retail. I don't know where they are now. Or they could convert to just a retail license. And then that begs the question, or the decision for council is whether or not, if you have a dual operating license, you either need to have separated premises so that you're sure that the 18-year-olds only go into the medical portion if they have the card, and then a separate entrance and division for the retail where it can be 21 and older. Or the entire store has to be 21. You can only be 21 to enter. And so that was one of the areas that council have to consider how they want to set that up.
Okay. And add to our civics lesson here, what does the charter allow for citizens to come forward with a petition to put the question on a ballot?
Well, I may look to Colleen for their different percentages that they do need to file a petition, and there are different thresholds of what percentage of registered electors need to sign that petition based on whether it's going on a general election ballot
Or a
a
special
special
election.
ballot. It's either 5 or 15%.
Of registered electors?
Yes.
Registered electors are electors who voted in the last
It's actually
municipal
electors.
election.
It's electors who voted in the last regular election.
Okay. And who has to absorb the cost for that? The petitioner?
No, we do.
As they stated last night, it was $55,000 expense for a special election, but if they could get it put in the November with the presidential this year, it would be minimal to about $13,000.
Correct. Because when you're running a special election, you're printing all your own ballots, you're hiring all your own staff. There's a lot more that goes into it. And when we're coordinating with the larger counties, they're doing all that for you. So you're really just paying a percentage of their overall cost.
One of the things that I found interesting from last night was council was pretty much in agreement that 50% of the city wants it, 50% doesn't, and that's equally divided pretty much across the board. And one of the concerns was that if you don't act, the petitioners would go out there and they would have control to craft the language for the ballot measure that they want put on the ballot. And so city was thinking, let's see what we can do for us controlling this. And if they can't find some sort of agreement on council, they might consider going and just referring it to the citizens for the vote. That way they can control the language.
Right, and if an ordinance is adopted that way, where it's placed on the ballot and the voters approve it, it can only be amended through another vote. And so it becomes very difficult to either to amend it or repeal it.
Any part of that that code can't be amended at all?
Unless it goes to a vote.
Back to it, okay.
That's the when pigs fly provision.
All right, thank you. Any other reports from staff? So I think 16B under authority members would probably be the time to jump in if you'd like.
Sure. I just want to have I have a question for probably staff, and I don't know if this helps you with a visual. The annual license fees and occupation tax, which is City Municipal Code 323, the annual occupation taxes are outlined in subsection B. For example, we have the tavern downtown, and they're a hotel and restaurant license, I believe, correct?
Correct.
What is the total they pay on an annual basis for occupation tax?
They pay the 1080, the $1,080.
Do they also pay the 480 under line 12?
No.
Why do they not pay a 480 under line 12?
I don't know, we'd have to ask. I don't know right now. We can look for you.
The reason I bring this up for discussion is I wonder if line 12 has kind of gone the way of obsolescence, and we would be doing the city a favor if we cleaned up the city code and recommended to council that it be repealed, or if it is still the law, we need to make sure we're following it.
Absolutely, and just FYI, City Attorney Schladorn and I have been speaking with Corey Hoffman in the past to work on cleaning up kind of our liquor code and bringing it more into line with state liquor code, except in those areas where we have the right to either be a little bit more strict or, so that is something we're looking at. And we will definitely add this to that list of questions and concerns.
Is it something that we could get a report on in May?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you also give us a preview of what's ahead?
Well, coming up in May, based on action taken earlier today, we will have a renewal hearing for Dee's Tavern. We also have a new license coming forward for Angelo's Taverna, which will be going in on South Santa Fe next door to Breckenridge. And they will be applying for a vintner's restaurant license, which is the wine equivalent of a brew pub. And so pretty excited about that.
What's the status of the space on Main Street?
Are you talking about the View House?
No, the
Which space? Oh, or the old
Jose
Jose's?
space.
Still up in the air.
The View House still moving forward? I mean, they'd originally said March of this year.
They are moving forward. They've actually filed a renewal, never having opened their doors. They have filed a renewal application. So they are moving forward at this time. We haven't been informed otherwise.
I also noticed that the liquor store, I think it was the first
Littleton
time.
Liquor Mart?
Yeah, by the King Soopers. I think
They
it was the
are-
first one when I was.
They are also renewing a license. They haven't been open yet. I had a conversation with their attorney yesterday, following up on that. They're looking at May 1, knock wood. So they ran into some space issues. They originally had 3 of the suites, but one of the suites that was leased to them was actually occupied, and that person didn't want to leave or move down, and now they have 4 suites. So it's grown.
Which location is this?
That's Littleton Liquor Mart on Littleton and Broadway by the King Soopers.
Okay. Any other reports from the authority members?
I can. And then I also just wanted to let you know, last year we had the Toad Tavern in here for a hearing based on back taxes, not filing a timely renewal, those kinds of things. Part of the agreed motion to renew their license was that they stay current in all their filings, that they not only become current but stay current. When they first submitted their renewal application, I was informed by finance that they had filed their report but had not paid for it. By the time it came to review through the city attorney's office, they had made good on it. It was past due, but they had made good on it. So right now, they're not in violation, but
Is that the filing fee or their taxes for that period?
their taxes.
Okay.
So as of now, they're current, but they did fall a little bit behind at one point, so I just wanted to let you know.
Okay. All right, any other reports from the authority members? 16C, just welcome the new members. Look forward to working with all of you. And
if I could, just one more thing. I just thought of it. Just to keep June 1st open, it's a Wednesday night, and that will be the Boards and Commissions dinner at the Inn at Hudson Gardens. You'll each be getting an invite to that, so just be aware of that. And they're looking at a little bit different format this year. I hear it's supposed to be a little bit more celebratory, no speeches is what I've been told, so.
Speeches aren't celebratory? You don't have to answer that, don't you?
They can be.
All right, seeing no more business, item 17 on the agenda is adjournment.